Hi, Scott Orlam with CINEMA-Magazin. I am bringing you one of the premiere films that's going to be showcasing here at Sundance 2021. It is called Knocking, and I'm here with the director, Frida Kempff, and the star of the film, Cecilia Milocco. So congratulations. What is it like to be at Sundance? I mean, obviously you're in Sweden, but what is it like to have your film showcased there?
I mean, it's the best, right? It's the best start you can get as a filmmaker and with the film. I mean, I'm so honored and so happy. I said to someone, it's like I'm having a happy shock.
Well, one of the good things about Sundance is had you gone, you would be acclimated to the cold, so it wouldn't be, a shock to your system.
Yeah, I know, but I'm from Sweden, so I'm used to it.
I want to kind of get into this movie because I thought what was fascinating is you, in a way, were reinventing the thriller. You're walking us through this psychological tightrope. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it might sound strange, but I actually never thought about it as a genre movie. I was just so into this woman's story and her emotional journey. So, and I mean, sometimes just being a woman can be dangerous. It could be a genre in so many ways. So I was just very true to Molly and her story, and just believing in her.
And Cecilia, talk a little bit about Molly because we get a hint right at the beginning of the movie that of her feelings about somebody else, that there's definitely a love there, and then we kind of lose it a little bit, and we're wondering how much of that has affected her. What was your own journey into discovering Molly's path?
Well, the thing that really occurred to me or did me was the feeling when your own truth is slipping away, because that was something we both shared when Frida and I and Molly, and we talked a lot about that because that is an inner horror. Really, when no one is there to support your experience or your own truth. And yes, she lost someone, and she lost maybe the only one that really connected to her, that really knew her. So yes, so it's also a story about grief and loss.
But there is that fine line, which I mentioned before, about, are we crazy? I mean, did we imagine something? Did we hear it? Who is our support system that believes us? And at the end of the day, is it important that what we believe in ourselves? How did you navigate that? From Molly's point of view, of making it grounded in reality, but is it a product of her imagination?
Yeah, it's like when no one is there, not even one person is there to say, yes, you're right. Yes, I hear it too, or whatever. You have to have that dialogue with yourself. So that was like in the shooting, that was really fun, but also like the challenge to have always that dialogue in yourself. And that's what's amazing, very exciting with this Molly figure. Yeah.
And Frida, I want to talk to you about sound.
Did you?
Because so many times we're consumed with the visuals of a movie, but what was so important was just that subtle sound that you kind of had inject.
Yeah, I love to work with sound. I mean, and that's actually how triggered me also to the story as a filmmaker. I mean, just being this, 80% only in this apartment, and I knew I had to tell the story so much in the sound. And I have a great sound designer called Thomas Jäger from Denmark, and I knew that he could pull it off. So we actually pre-recorded some sound for Cecilia to be able to act to something, and then we did the whole. I mean, it was like give a rebirth to the film after the final cut. Just go into that another level of the film.
What I really appreciated too is we've all been subjected to neighbors that we don't know. And how much do we trust them and how much do we mistrust them? Talk a little bit about your own relationship to neighbors.
Well, I've been moving around so much. So, I mean, you hear a lot of sound for sure. And And I mean, it's that itself is a horror, because people are, you know, you never know what's. I remember there was a lot of fight in one apartment, the opposite of me, and I was always listening to. I mean, is it really a fight? I mean, should I, you know, go in there, or is it just you know, a regular fight or whatever? But actually, another story is that the editor lived in an apartment. We rented her in Stockholm, and she didn't go out. She was just editing this movie, and she became almost paranoid. I'm sorry, Rika, I'm going to tell you this. So every time I went to her every morning, she was like, "Did you hear that? Someone knocked?" I said, "No. You're working too much. You need to get out, do something else."
And Cecilia, for you, with neighbors?
Well, when you mentioned that, I now remembered in my last apartment, there was always a man come who said that I was disturbing, or there was some disturbing noise from my apartment. And I have 2 children, so okay, it could be them. But sometimes he came down while I was alone, and he just said that it was like big steps, and you can't go like that, and you have to like, and it was like, it's not me. It has to come from somewhere else, and that is very strange, you know, in apartments, that you can the sounds, you don't know really where they come from, like. In knocking too, that you can't, where is it, there, or is it right, left, you don't know. And this man, he was determined that it was from my apartment. So
what kind of discussion do you hope this movie will generate about the effects of trauma in our life, about what effects it takes on us?
You want to answer that, Cecilia? I think you could answer
that. Well, that's a very we could discuss that a long time, but it's kind of you don't trauma and that what you call mental illness is something that everyone experiences, I think, in some way. But how long it takes or how it expresses itself, that's very different. And in our society, it's like it's like a mall. I don't know, how do you say it? It's a mall. It's like
yes, a mold, right?
Mall. It's like yes, after 2-3 months, it should be over, or it should be like that's a journey. It has to have its way, and if you don't do the journey, it comes knocking.
That's a perfect segue to do that. I cannot thank both of you. The movie is called Knocking. And Frida and Cecilia, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And this is Scott. Till next time.